Hi, good day. This is Marcus Alexander and welcome to today's video. In today's video, I'm going to do some very basic validation. For example, I'm going to check to see if a value exists, or I'm going to check to see if it's empty. I can check to see if a value is a number, or we can move on to some very common things you'll be doing over and over, like checking to see if you're logged in, or checking to see if a button was clicked, and so on. So let's start off with the basic stuff. Let's check to see if a value exists. Now, we have been using this before, and the truth is, I see it like this. Is set check to see if something exists. Now it is a bit more technical than that, because the truth is set, I'm not getting to the full details because I will definitely confuse you, but is set really let's look at this. 1 means true and 0 means false. If I have a variable but I never declared it, then is set will say then there's nothing there. But if I say null, it will say nothing's there. But if I said a variable is equal to space, the truth is something is there. And if I said if a value is equal to 1 or 0, something is there. So the truth is set really says as long as it's not null, well, as long as you declare a value and it's not null, then something's there. So I'm not getting into that technical details, I will confuse all. So I'll go into my simple definition. Is set really checks to see if a button was clicked or if a session exists. Think of it like that and nothing more. So before I get started, remember, because I'm on my registration page and I want to test some codes here, and I don't want to accidentally insert information in the database over and over, I put a valid query here. The page will look as if it works, but the truth is nothing's being inserted in the database. And you also consider that if I click submit, it looks as if it works, but nothing is in my database. So let's test my first code, check to see if something is there. And like I said, we have seen this before. It really is set. And very often we will use if is set post registration, which is the name of my button. I could tell you exactly what's happening here, but the truth is you all don't need to know it. If you really want to know, feel free to message me, use the WhatsApp group, or ask me in class. I'll explain it to you in detail. But for the sake of the video and for the sake of explanation, think of it simple. Is set will check to see if a button was clicked or if a session exists. Here's why I don't use is set to check to see if someone entered information in a field. If is set post first name echo there is something else echo there is nothing. And just for testing, I'm gonna say echo. Remember, this is just I'm just doing this for testing purposes. Test starts here. Test, oops, ends here. So let's try this. I'm gonna check to see if something exists, but let's do it to that text field this time. I'm going to type something. Does something exist? There is something. What if I did not type anything? It still says something exists. Now I could explain in the actual definition what is set is doing, but once again, for the sake of the video, is set in your case, you need to think of it like this. Checks to see if a button was clicked, or it checks to see if a variable exists. I'm not checking for, actually this is a variable by the way, but I'm not getting into that details. So that's it for now. We check to see if something exists. What about is empty? Let's check to see if the text field is empty. In this case, I'm going to redo this quickly. If empty first name echo it is empty, else echo it is not empty. Let's try this. I'm going to type something. It is not empty. What if I leave it empty? There you go. So we've seen so far that is set is best used to check to see if a button was clicked, or if information was submitted. Sorry, if a button was clicked, or if a session exists. Oh, I didn't do the session part. My apologies. I'll do that shortly. And to validate the information that the person typed in the field, empty is the best approach to use. I have a little bit of testing that shows these things in details, but I'll show you all in person if you really want to know the actual definition and what's happening in the background, but I'm just keeping it as simple as possible. So I check to see if something is empty. What about if our value is a number? Now, why would I need to check this? Well, remember, databases deal with numbers sometimes. Like our primary key in our database, it's usually a number. And if for some reason I want to take information from an unsecure place, I want to make sure it's the numbers I'm dealing with. So let's test this. I'm going to say if tab, and the code I'm going to say is underscore numeric first name. Let's check if this is numeric. It is a number, else echo it is not a number. I just want to use this to skip a line. I'll just put BR. Also to show up side by side. So anyways, really this part I need. So let's test this. If I type 1 in here, is it a number? It is a number. If I type 0, is it a number? What if I type nothing? Is it a number? Nope. And what if I type quotation 1? Quotations with 1? That's not a number. What if I type the word 1? It's not a number. So that's basic validation. Let's move on to some very common stuff. Once again, I said it over and over. Isset is best used to see if a button was clicked or if a session exists. And very often on your pages, you want to make sure the person is logged in before doing something. For example, in my booking page, I want to make sure before you book, you are in fact logged in. Although the truth is we could design it to allow you to book and then log in somewhere in between, but we're not doing that. So let's do this code now. You must watch my login video to understand what's happening. If you did in fact logged in, it creates a session, and this session can be used on any page. So let's check to see if I'm logged in. Once again, I must have session start to the top of my page. Absolutely necessary if you plan to use sessions. And this should be one of your first codes. If is set session, in my case, user ID. You are logged in, else you are, echo you are not logged in. Now let me log out first and then test this. I'm on my login page. It says you are not logged in. So this is how Isset works. It says, is there a session called user ID? In this case, no. Let me log in. Let me log in. In my case, maryjane@mail.com. Password 1. Go to my registration page. Oops, I typed this wrong. I am logged in. So there is a session that exists with a user ID. That's the best way to use Isset. So that's basically checking to see if I'm logged in. You will be seeing this code very often, get the hang of using it. We are accustomed to seeing if a button was clicked. I have the code here already. We've seen it many times before. I'll not type it again. So I'm gonna say this again, and then I said it many times before. Isset is best used to check to see if a button was clicked or if a session exists, although that's not the actual definition, all right? Let's check checking to see if information was submitted to our server. Now if we get into the actual definition, well, the truth is this form tag, this input fields are surrounded by a form tag. When I click a button, the information is submitted to the server, and their assigned names according to how I name them. So if I click a button, the information is submitted to our server. So this fancy way of saying check to see if information was submitted to our server is really the same thing as saying is set, really. But what I'm trying to say is that I will hardly ever need to say if is set check for input fields. Let me phrase this again. I will hardly need to use is set to check to see if our input field is there or not. That's kind of pointless. I don't do things like that. I'll just demonstrate a few, but I won't need to do that. Let's just do the code for the sake of it. I want to see if there is a input field called confirm password for some reason. Is there an input field called confirm password? There is. Oh, yes, something is there. Else echo. Nothing is there. And just for the sake of space alone, I'll just say echo BR, which is to skip a line. So I'm looking to see if I have a, oops, I have a typo on line 39. This is my, wait, on line 39. Oh, else. My apologies. Took me a while to figure out that. If I click submit, there is no input field called confirm password, but the truth, oops, I spelled this wrong. Doesn't matter. The point is nothing is there. But I just want to make the point, this is how it said works, but the truth is we don't use it like that. That's why I just kept it simple and saying it'll be checking to see if a button was clicked or if a session exists. Oh, we did this part already. It's a bit redundant, so I'll just edit this text, these text information. So I'll edit this and put some more meaningful stuff. This is a bit redundant information. Let's move on to the most important one. I'll do the validate numbers first, and the most important one is the validate dates. Let's say I want a number. I'll actually type it in the text field. I want to see if that number is, I know, greater than 10. This is basic maths here. If, actually let's do two validations in one. If is numeric. Oops. If the number from the first name field is in numeric, let's pull that information. Oh, yeah, let's do. Damn it. Okay, let's pretend. I'll just create a variable. Remember, this is just for testing sake. So I have a variable called a is equal to 5. I can say is that information numeric? Is it numeric? And is 5, sorry, is a greater than 10. So I'm doing two validations. I'm checking to see if this is numeric. I'm checking to see if the value is greater than 10. Echo, it is a number and it is greater than 10. Else, wow, what am I doing here? Echo, echo, either it's not a number or it's not greater than 10. Now the truth is I should have just said O instead. Should have said O, but anyway, the point is we just testing here. I'm gonna type nothing. Nothing is not numeric, so that doesn't work. I'm gonna type 9. This is a number and it is, well, it's not greater than 10. Let me type 12. So this is a number. Whoa, it's not a number and it's not greater. Oh wait, I forgot. It's actually taking information from here. My apologies. I should have just ignored this part. You know what? As a matter of fact, just ignore this. I was just trying to show you something that you could validate numbers by saying, hey, is this number greater than 10 or is it less than 10 or is it greater than equal to? But this kind of pointless. The most important part now, validating dates, and I'm going to say this very straightforward. It's very difficult to validate dates in PHP. If you Google it right now, you will come across some crazy ways to do it. I'm going to demonstrate my way of doing it, which is, I guess other people will do it so, but remember, this is not common. So as a student, you need to justify everything you do. So don't just type what you see, just kind of understand this is my way of doing things. I'll do it in a simple way for you to understand first, and then I'll put it in a shortcut. So a date, by the way, in PHP is it means something different than how we say date, but it's almost the same. But I'm going to do this. Let's create a variable here. Date, format is year, month, and date. So 1st of February 2019. I'm going to use two things here. I'm going to use PHP string to time. This is the actual PHP documentation. I'm going to use PHP date. I know this documentation looks a bit complicated. Two things I just want to prove, which is why I love W3 schools. It breaks this thing down easy for you. And secondly, this is the headache I have to go through for you all. But anyway, that is not the point. But so string to time basically says, give me time in English or in words, and I'll convert it to a timestamp for you. And then date says, give me a timestamp, and I'll actually try to convert it to a PHP date, which is a little something meaningful to PHP. But I'll say this again. String to time says, give me a date in English, I'll convert it to a timestamp. Date says, give me a timestamp, I'll convert it to a date for you. Let's do this piece by piece and then put it together. So timestamp is equal string to time. So this says, give me a date, I'll convert it as timestamp, and then a valid date is equal to date, and then give it a timestamp. Now we could format this because we may not get the correct information we want. So I'm going to say format this to show capital Y. Yes, that's capital. Capital Y means the full year in numeric, which is 2019. If I put common Y, I'll just get 19 alone. So capital Y means the full year as a number, which is 2019. M, give me the month as a number, and D means give me the date as a number. And let's echo this. Now, funny thing is, once again, just for testing, well, just for space, I'll just echo a space here. So this is my value, and the truth is, it's going to give me back the same thing, but this is just me validating that it is in fact a date. Let's just click a button. There we go. Now, if this wasn't a date, here's what's going to happen. The string to time says give me a date, and if it fails, I'm going to give you a default date, which is 1970, the 1st of January. So 1st of January 1970. So if I do not give you a valid date, it's going to give me 1970, 1st of January. Let's test this. If I do not put a valid date, which I didn't do, I got this here. So here's my way of doing validation. So let's just say, hey, if the valid date variable is less than or equal to 1970-0101, then echo it is not a valid date. I have a typo somewhere here. Nope, I don't. Okay. Yeah, so if something went wrong, I will get 1970 the 1st of the 1st. So I'm basically saying, is my variable equal to that or less than or equal to that same date? And if so, it's not a valid date. If I didn't get a valid date, I would have gotten back the same value I put on top here. So let's test this again. I'm not going to put a valid date. It is not a valid date. Let's take this off. Let's put a meaningful date here. This is a valid date. I'll get back the same thing. See? So my way of validating a date is really to pass it through some PHP keywords. It will actually convert it to a PHP date. That means something to PHP, but it doesn't make a big deal. The point is, if it fails along the way, I got this date. So my way of validating is saying, hey, go through these PHP functions here, well, these PHP codes. If by chance I get 1970, I know for sure it's not a valid date. If I get back the same thing, it is a valid date. I'm going to do this as a shortcut now because I don't type like this. My shortcut would be valid date is equal to the date, and give me, all right, string to time, give me that date, and format it for me. This is what you call shorthand code. So the truth is, the date went to the string to time, the string to time went to the date, and then I got back a valid date. So this one line is the same thing as this, but I just put it like this for you to understand first, and this is really how I type codes, but whichever one makes sense to you. And I'm going to say this again, this is my way of validating dates. And that's it for this video. I hope this made sense to you. I did in fact do 2 videos. I'm going to post both of them so you to have an idea the headache I go through to make these videos for you. I make so much mistakes. Sometimes I have to redo these videos. Sometimes I have to try to explain it in other words to make sure you understand. So I really hope you all appreciate these videos and it makes sense to you all, and that you all use it outside of the class to accomplish great things. So that's it. Goodbye.